How's it going, everybody? The new season arrived this week, and just as the last two times, we've gotten a bunch of small buffs and nerfs to multiple heroes. On top of that, the two reworks we tested last season, meaning the ones for Tiandi and Valkyrie, have arrived as well. The two reworks are getting their own separate videos, but for today, we'll go over all the other changes. Patch notes will be linked down below, but as so often, simply reading some numbers that changed, well, that doesn't always show the full picture. There's always additional context that is necessary to be looked at. So I will try my best. And so should you, because Christmas is around the corner and here's your chance for a last minute present. I've partnered up with NordVPN again, and there is obviously going to be a Christmas deal. We've often talked about applications for when you are at your computer, but our VPN can be useful on multiple different devices. Right now, we have the World Cup that's going on. And it might not be broadcast in every country, or maybe you want to hear the commentary in a different language. NordVPN lets you do exactly that. And not just for sport events, obviously, also movies, TV series, documentaries, and much more, like cheaper Christmas shopping. And while we are on that very topic, having your payment information just floating around is dangerous. NordVPN's threat protection has you covered there as well. Worry less and get nicer things for your friends and family instead. Go to nordvpn.com/freeze and check out the special holiday discount. Get an additional 4 months for free with a 30-day money-back guarantee on top of it. All the links you need are down in the video description, so go and check it out. Not just for yourself, it's a great gift for others as well. Alright, lots to talk about, so let's get straight to it. Lawbringer first, as that's probably the hero most want to see. As is tradition, no matter how much he gets buffed, we'll always have people wanting more and still calling him weak. So just as a little disclaimer, Lawbringer is borderline ST in duels now with his changes, and he's still retained all of his unhealthy aspects. So I'm expecting quite a few nerfs in the future, but we can talk about this another day. What did he get? His shove now became a 500 ms forward dodge bash. The input window sits at 300 to 500 ms into the dodge. The side dodge version sits at 533 ms, exactly what Kong's currently is. Input window is 266 to 466 ms into the side dodge. This seems really strange, but I guess the devs like round numbers. It's just very unique and the first time we're seeing this. We'll see if other heroes with side dodge bashes are getting their numbers adjusted as well in the future. Or the other possibility is that I measured wrong. But suffice it to say, this makes it one of the strongest defensive tools, also because it chains into one of the best unblockables the game currently has to offer. In conjunction to this, the recoveries got adjusted. We are looking at 800 ms for guard break, 900 ms for guard swap, and 800 ms again for dodging. This means that you can get a guard break on a very early dodge and are able to punish it with dodge attacks pretty much every single time. This nerf to the recoveries also affects the in-chain shove. I'm pretty sure it is now the identical move and thus the recoveries are linked. So how strong is that bash now? Is it reactable? Well, as always, some people will probably be able to react to it, but the chances of you fighting these on a regular basis are slim to none. On top of this, Lawbringer's forward dodge recovery sits at 400 ms, which is really early. What this means is that he can throw a light or heavy at that timing, more or less giving him 2 forward dodge attacks he can mix his bash up with. Since this has never been a mix-up before, we don't know how reactable it is at the moment. Maybe it's bad, maybe it's actually quite good, we'll have to see. For the vast majority, this will work as an opener. And as I said, the unblockables from Lawbringer have been amazing for quite some time now, meaning he never really struggled when it came to viable chain offense. Combine this with his stupid punishes, stamina drain and stun on top heavies, heavy perks and all that. Well, he is sitting pretty, and everyone who tells you something else needs a reality check. I expect Lawbringer to pop up in comp teams, as well as be picked even more in duels if the map favors him. Alright, moving on to the second problem child. At this point, maybe we should discuss to simply give Centurion up for adoption. Maybe it's just not worth the hassle. First change is being able to chain into jab from whiffed attacks. That is a solid change. Then Ubisoft has tinkered a little more with the charged mechanic of the punch. They changed the minimum charge time and the maximum charge time. What does this mean for dodge timings and interrupts? Well, for one, we still have this weird singular dodge timing that makes both uncharged and fully charged dodgeable. This requires, well, depending on character, delaying of the dodge attack. Because of that, it can be susceptible to feint to guard break, but I wouldn't call it consistent by any means. I mean, we've had this tons of times in the past already. We've talked about it ad nauseum, and the only thing that can save this punch is better tracking. We've had really good tracking on the punch after chain heavy in the past. Feel free to watch this old video here, highlighting the differences between the two. Ever since they nerfed that one, we've been having these lackluster charged bashes. And while the other charged bashes can have similar issues, it somehow was never to the degree that we see for Centurion here. On top of that, the longer charge time now also makes the move more susceptible to interrupts. This goes for all forms of hit and block stun. A shift of the hyper armor would be needed here to at least keep it in favor of the Centurion after heavies. As it is right now, this mix-up seems to put the defender at an advantage, which seems rather peculiar. Not only that, changing the timings of the punch also means that his ganks are now different. Ganks have always been a strong suit. If you looked at a Raider chart, his ganking ability would display a massive spike, whereas the rest would be quite low. The point here is that if you mess with his ganks, he's pretty much left with nothing. But there are also positives from this change, if you want to look at it like that, which is that Cent has now a new best heavy parry punish if he has Haymaker unlocked. The riposte knee now confirms the punch because of the lower charge time, and then a follow-up light. This makes this a 22 damage heavy parry punish. The other side effect from the reduced charge time is that Cent is done with it earlier. This means that under certain circumstances, a level 1 bash is not guard breakable. This is the case on medium, block and hit stun on the opener heavies. It is still guard breakable after light hit stun, as well as medium hit and block stun of the chain heavies. For pins, it's the same. Neutral is not guard breakable, whereas chain is guard breakable. I want to hear your opinion on this specifically. Should level 1 charges from bashes be punishable with a guard break? Or is this new development something you want to see for the others as well? Or keep it unique to Cent? Looking forward to some of your approaches here. Moving on to Pirate. Let's look at the simple things first. Damage reduction on Walk the Plank down to 24 damage, and at the same time the Revenge went up to 30. Combined with the Gunshot that also has an increased Revenge amount, Pirate is now an even bigger feeder. And then Forward Dodge Heavy now does 12 damage, which means down by 2. That move is getting weaker and weaker. Then the chain links to the pistol shot grab move on whiffs have been increased by 100 ms. As a little reminder, hitting someone externally does count as a whiff. As long as you do not hit your locked on target, it doesn't matter who else you hit, the game considers it a whiff for all intents and purposes. Now this is what it looked like before the patch. You could self-confirm the gunshot on external targets. And this is what it looks like now. You can successfully dodge it every single time. After heavies, after dodge attacks, whatever. The timing might be very strict if the end portion of a heavy hitbox grazes you, but there are no longer instances where it is confirmed. So a very solid fix here again. Then let's look at PK. Her dodge attack got her recoveries changed. Let me make this clear so people don't misunderstand. She doesn't have recovery cancels out of her dodge attack. She simply has really low recoveries on it. She doesn't need to dodge within a window. She can dodge whenever then. And the numbers are on hit and block. We're looking at 500 ms across the board. With Deep Gouge, we're looking at an even earlier recovery of 400 ms. This also extends to a forward dodge heavy, not just the side ones. On whiff, it is 500 ms as well, so lots of 500 ms recoveries actually. Patch notes say 400 ms, but Ubisoft always ignores the extra 100 ms that automatically come with within a move. Meaning the patch notes are not wrong, we are just measuring differently. We always measured from the point of damage or theoretical damage. That's just a little disclaimer, I guess. Then her deflect riposte is now a medium hit reaction. The What stream said it used to be light, but it was actually a heavy hit reaction, so it got reduced. On top of it, the recovery also got lowered to 400. This now means that Peacekeeper can deal with some hyper armor follow-ups. The move just cannot be 700 ms or faster. But everything slower than that, and she can hit multiple deflects in a row and get damage in every single time. Combined with the dodge attack recovery, this also means she can miss one and still have a chance on the next attack. We can use this here as a great example and also showcase a new change for Warlord. He had his chain heavy hyper armor starter buffed. It starts at 100 ms now. This means he does beat PK's double deflect attempts. Previously, the slower hyper armor startup would have gotten the heavy interrupted instead. And next one, Nuxia. Deflect damage down to 20, but in turn is now unblockable. You can still change the side the attack comes from, so keep that in mind when you deflect some very low recovery moves, as to make it harder for the opponent maybe trying to parry it. And then the dodge attacks, they are now enhanced. Forward dodge attack can also be delayed and is no longer on a fixed input timing. On top of that, her side heavy hitboxes, they got their trajectories buffed. And not an insignificant buff, actually. They haven't been bad before, but now they're actually quite something. The cool part is that the hitbox extends to both sides. Usually attacks have one side that they favor, but Nuxia covers both left and right on either sides. Now, if you compare it to her zone, well, I don't think I need to say anything here really. But I will say something about Raider. Stamina pool down to 120. Just in case you want to check this for yourself in the future, here's a neat little trick. Go into training and set your hero to exhausted. The right table will now display how much stamina you just lost. Then damage nerfs. Side heavies now do 24, 26 and then 28. Top heavies do 27, 28 and then 30. Neutral zone remains unchanged and the chain zone is down to 28. I think this is overkill, not in terms of the numbers itself, but more for the fact that we are still singling out heroes with these changes. I've talked about this enough in the past that I'm probably boring you at this point, but Ubisoft needs to make up their minds when it comes to damage. Especially with the Warmonger and the testing ground on the horizon, but we will see some nasty damage numbers. Some moves need to hit hard, I agree, but this goes for the whole cast, not just 2 or 3. Well, moving on, the other hero that got hit with the damage nerf stick is Zhanhu. All finisher unblockable heavies do 28 now. And Gladiator, his toe stab once again unbalances opponents that are out of stamina. The move got buffed in changes recently, making it a 500 ms one. So I expect this to land quite often now, or at least exert a lot of pressure on the poor sub that has a grey bar. This knockdown now confirms either a chain heavy or a skewer. There is no delay nor any specific timing, simply buffer it and you'll get it. With a wall nearby and a proper delay of the skewer, this can lead to up to 57 damage. As a result, I expect the hero to climb up the dual tier list, well, a little. Let's talk Shinbob. The pin duration of the dodge kick got reduced to 800 ms. This brings it in line with the rest of them, which seems fair enough. I don't quite get the explanation in the patch notes though. For one, the kick is still usable as a peel tool and people will still add damage to it, just not as easily. I guess that is achieved to some degree. But other than that, a single kick is not really used for ganks anymore. Kick back roll into sickle rain isn't really a thing anymore, ever since the revenge amount got upped on the move. It was very common during the Into the Fray tournament, but not anymore. So the change does very little, as the ranged heavy is the one that currently sets up the ganks. You don't really set up Shinobi for sickle rain anymore. All I'm saying, it's not as impactful a change as the patch notes make it sound to be. And then the damage on the parry riposte, it got reduced to 14, down from 18. Then a couple more small changes. Shaolin's Invigorate no longer procs when dodging out of chi stance. My guess is that they simply reduced the time the feat is active after exiting, just so the chi heavies are still applying the effect. This change is quite significant, as Shaolins use dodge attack into chi stance, into dodge attack, and then they repeat that. They do that quite a lot. Having the tier 3 heal each time is a big deal. Do that 3 times in a team fight, and all of a sudden you healed 96 HP when your whole team is present. Next, Medjay can now control the direction of his attacks when clearing minions while out of lock. He already had very solid minion clearing, which is now even better, and this also makes it even safer with enemies nearby. Being able to actually control which minion to lock onto, combined with his huge hitboxes, will make him an even bigger menace in the mid lane. And Kyoshin real quick, the Kazakhstan's unblockable now only needs 12 stamina to use, down from 20. Which in the grand picture is not much. Kyoshin needs quite a few more stamina buffs to that, but we'll discuss that another time. Next, Warmonger. Her just recently introduced bleed damage from her bash would go through Blackbriar's flip. That has now been fixed, no more damage to Blackbriar. Then, guard change during the guard break animation. I hope it is visible on screen. Many of you know I probably applied this already in your own gameplay. Some characters get better out of stamina throw punches when their guard is in a specific direction, but you cannot change guard after having connected with a guard break. It just buffers it after the throw, which is bad in this case. But the startup of a guard break until you touch the opponent, during that window you can change your guard. This has been fixed on Zhanhu, Gladiator and Shaolin. And now the last change that I think is worth mentioning. ANSEL is back in spectator mode. That's amazing news for me and probably anybody that likes taking screenshots. So just go and spectate somebody on your friend list, or give them detailed instructions what you need, and you can get cool looking pictures again. Now, but in all seriousness, a big thanks to the person who fixed this, as I didn't expect this to happen anytime soon, to be honest, considering how few people are affected. Alright, that's it. Valkyrie and Tiandi videos are coming sometime next week. In the poll, most of you voted Valk, so that's the one we go with first. If there are any other things that are unclear from this season, feel free to ask, either in the comments or on Discord. Link is in the description. Just like the sponsor, so don't forget that. With that said, I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters, everybody.